experiences, and then only he derived his wisdom. On the screen, we can see the unlearning and the learning that took place in chapter number 10, 11, and 12. In chapter number 10, which is titled as The Son, he unlearns that teacher, knowledge, seeking, and authority can protect one from sin, from greed, and from folly. But one can never help another. If I am making any mistake, you can ask me to get away with it, but you cannot actually stop me doing it. It is I who can decide that I shouldn't do this. He did the same thing with his son. Earlier, he wanted his son not to commit mistakes and follies and all. But at the end, he realized that to get rid of folly, one needs to do it. If you don't do any mistake, you don't learn in your life. So, mistakes are taken as testimonial of learning. Mistakes are inevitably there in our life. Here we find the influence of existential philosophy on Hermann Hesse. In chapter 11, he unlearns that life is a flow of individual voice. In your life, in my life, I live as a teacher, I live as somebody's daughter, I live as somebody's sister. But these individual realities are not important. The unification of all these realities are important. So life is a flow of individual voices. He learns in this chapter that when self merges into the unity, conflicts and desire cease to exist. No conflict, no discontent, no desires you will feel, and you will come out of the sufferings which you were feeling when you were engaged into worldly affairs. Nirvana and samsara is one and the same thing. You cannot go out of samsara and think of getting salvation. There is no need to go on Himalayas in search of salvation. You can be in the samsara. You have to live in this world and you have to attain salvation. This was the unlearning which took place in chapter number 11. In chapter number 12, there was no unlearning, there was no learning, because there was complete de-becoming. This de-becoming is a new word. It's a technical word. It suggests that we in our life try to become something. We try to become somebody's son, somebody's sister, somebody's brother, a teacher, a good wife, a good husband. But what ultimately matters? We need to become a good individual. And when you throw away all these masks, when you stop becoming something, you de-become. It means you become a real individual. So this type of individuation or de-becoming happens in the life of Sidhartha. He was find harmony with his own self as well as with the nature, and he was feeling harmony with all people who were living in the world. So this harmony is very much important. When we try to live with some masks on our faces, when we try to become something, when we try to pretend something, we lose harmony with ourselves, with others, and with the world outside. But when we try to throw off all these masks, at that time only we start living an authentic life. This is the message from Sidhartha. So here we have done the chapter-wise analysis of the novel Sidhartha. Going further ahead, I would like to say that we have to analyze the choices which Sidhartha made throughout his life. When he was a young boy, he was having dreams, he was having restless thoughts, and he was feeling discontent due to these dreams and restless thoughts. What happened? Sometimes we also get restless thoughts. We also have dreams, but we do not give response to these dreams and restless thoughts. Sidhartha chose a different thing. He responded his dreams and restless thoughts. He tried to come out of that situation, and that is why he started asking questions. He started asking questions even to the authority. He asked questions to the religious leaders. He asked questions to his father. So his choice was asking question. when we are having restless thought, and if we don't question, then you will not get knowledge. He also doubted the accepted knowledge. Whatever was written in Holy Scripture, he didn't accept it passively, but he was doubting it. How can I attain salvation? How can I meet God? How can I feel inner peace? Is salvation and inner peace equally same? These were his questions, and for getting the answers of these questions, he started doubting the accepted knowledge. Whatever was written in the scripture, he started doubting that. This is an existential feature. He discarded authority. He discarded absolute guidelines, and he ventured on a risky path of his life. When he joined life as a samana, he was wandering in the jungle. He was contemplating meditation. It was a risky path for him. He was cut off from the world. It was a risky path. When he started living life with Kamla, it was also a risky path, because there he got himself engaged in worldly affairs, and he became restless again. He lost his important qualities: thinking, fasting, waiting. These were the qualities he developed when he was living as a samana. But while living with Kamala, he felt that his qualities of fasting, thinking, and waiting are getting worse. So it was a risky path. He didn't search for any ready-made solutions from anyone, but he ventured on a risky path, and that venture only made him come out of the situation and take some more risks. So if you analyze the life of Sidhartha, you can see many risks which he had taken in his life. Some more choices made by Sidharthas are displayed on the screen. Plunging into live experiences. From the river, he learnt that only present exists. So when he was with Kamla, he was there only. When he was with Samanas, he was there only. So he was plunging into live experiences. He was constantly reflecting on the experiences. When he was with Kamaswami, a merchant, he was thinking, what is this I have made up of my life? Many mistakes and follies I have committed. He was thinking and reflecting. This reflection only made him do away with whatever life he was living and start a new beginning. He became a part of the cycle of learning and unlearning. From the very beginning, he knew that to learn something new, I must unlearn whatever has been learned. So he became a part of the cycle of learning and unlearning. Whatever knowledge he built, it was based on the experiences of the previous knowledge and experiences. So he was favoring experience-based knowledge. He was not favoring anyone's ready-made answers. So whatever knowledge he was creating, it was his own knowledge. It was not written anywhere. It was a kind of created knowledge. He was exploring possibilities. He was not endeavoring to find out the right answer. He did many mistakes in his life. He committed many follies in his life. But there was not a single time he focused on right and wrong. He was feeling some dilemma between what is right, what is wrong. But he was not endeavoring to find out the right answer. He was just exploring the possibilities. He was going into different experiences. And thereby he was building his own knowledge. He was accepting and understanding change as the logos of life. Sometimes what happens when we are not happy with our life, we do not switch over to another type of life because we are not ready to accept the changes which are occurred outside. So we try to remain in our comfort zone only. Sidhartha didn't do it. He accepted each and every changes as the logos of life. When he was not happy as a Brahmin boy, he left it. He started a new life. When he was not happy as a Samana, he ended it. He started a new life. He started living with Kamala. He was not happy, then he left her. So every time he starts a new life. So accepting and understanding changes is the logos of life. It was the biggest choice made by Sidhartha in this novel. The role of the river, if we analyze in this novel, we can say that river appears as a symbol of flux of life, detour and inner voice. After leaving Gautama, when Siddhartha comes to the river, the ferryman says everything comes back. Again, Siddhartha crosses the river and then he lives with Kamala, and then once again he comes back to the river. See, it is a kind of detour, going to somewhere and then coming back to the same place. But when he went to the world with Kamala, he was a different person. When he came back to the river, he was a different person. Although it was a detour, the experiences in the world changed Siddhartha a lot. So, river symbolizes that life is in present only. There is a flow in life. Life doesn't get ended at one particular point, and at any given time you can come back to any point as a different person. And river was also a symbol of inner voice, because quite often Siddhartha saw his reflection in the river. He was talking to himself. So river symbolizes inner voice of Siddhartha. Hermann Hesse, when he wrote this novel, Sidhartha, he was influenced by Buddhism as well as he was influenced by existentialism. Existentialism is a school of thought which believes that existence precedes essence. Some of the elements of existentialism which we find in this novel are: self is in a state of making. Siddhartha was in a state of making continuously. As a Brahmin boy, as a Samana, as a Kamala's lover, as a ferryman, he was constantly rebuilding something in his self. So a self is continuously in a state of making. The self tries to reshape itself. If you are not happy with whatever life you are living, you must reshape your life. So that particular principle of existentialism is found in Siddhartha's life as well. Experiences trigger learning of an individual. Existentialism believes that for any learning, plunging into experiences are needed. Same thing happens with Siddhartha. So this particular principle is also the influence of existentialism on Hesse. Existentialism also believes in risk taking. It focuses on a particular point that risks involved in the action makes an individual attain maturity. If you want to become mature, you must take risks. Ethical principles are derived by contemplating on one's own experiences. We have the habit of accepting ethical principles. Whatever my parents, my teachers, my elders say, I accept it blindly. But existentialism says that we have to build our own ethical principles based on our own experiences, and the same thing we can find in this novel. Spontaneity and unplanned life is very much needed in our life. We never know what is going to happen tomorrow. The life is becoming more and more complex. In such a complex life, we have to be spontaneous respondents to life. Everything planning doesn't help us. When Siddhartha was living a life of a young Brahmin boy, he never thought that one day he would meet Gautam Buddha. But that thing happened in his life. When he met Gautam Buddha, he didn't plan that I will go to the world, I will accept Kamala as my mistress and things like that. But these things happened in his life, right? So spontaneity and unplanned life in present is the principle which is also found in this novel Sidhartha. Journey from self-deception to authentic life. Let us analyze the character of Govinda, who was Siddhartha's friend. He left his house along with Siddhartha. He was also having some questions. He left Siddhartha's house, his house also. But he followed Buddha. He was deceiving himself. He thought that by following someone, he would know something in his life. But Siddhartha didn't do it. So, starting a journey from self deception to authentic life is also important. Siddhartha felt some instant attraction to Kamala, and he responded to it. So he was true to himself. This is the example of shifting from self deception to authentic life. Some more features of Buddhism found in Hermann Hesse's novel Sidhartha are displayed on the screen. Buddhism believes that there is suffering in life, and you can do away with the suffering if you are aware of it. So, some of the principles of Buddhism are found in Hermann Hesse Sidhartha as well. A person can awaken himself from the sleep of ignorance. If you are ignorant, the word used in Buddhism is agnana. When you are in agnana, you are not an awakened one. When you are in worldly life, you are unhappy and you feel suffering. It is because of this ignorance. But this ignorance is curable. Nobody else is going to cure your suffering. You have to do something to cure your suffering only. By avoiding the ignorance and by learning through experiences only, one can do away with the sufferings. Right speech, right action can live an authentic life. In Buddhism, there is a word called Samyak Jivan, Samyak Drasti, Samyak Vani. These things are reflected in Hermann Hesse's novel Sidhartha. Understanding reality as it is, not just as it appears to be, is also one of the principles which we can find in Hermann Hesse's novel Sidhartha. Thus, we can say that on Sidhartha, while writing Sidhartha, Hesse was influenced by Buddhism as well as by existentialism. Some mythological references of Vasudeva also make us analyze that on Hermann Hesse there was a great influence of Hinduism also. So here this was the analysis of Sidhartha.
Okay, so to conclude, we can say that in the presentation we have already discussed the developmental process of the hero Sidhartha, and we have also seen the explanation of the term learning and unlearning, and how unlearning something is important for an individual.